Welcome to Ralph Bivins Project. I'm Ralph Bivins. We're just glad you're here on this podcast. Hoping you subscribe on YouTube or check us out on Spotify. And also, you're looking for the latest news, go to realtynewsreport.com. There's no paywall and free press, free info. You can find out what's going on in the real estate market just by going to realtynewsreport.com, and there you can also find out about how to subscribe to our e-newsletter. A lot of people like that. A lot of people take that, and we'd welcome everybody to participate and let us know what you're thinking and see what we're saying. So appreciate that. And we're really lucky today to have Sam Scott with us today as a guest. He's Director of Commercial Services for CommGate, which of course is the commercial gateway of the Houston Association of Realtors. He's a graduate of Rice, and he's been around for a long time in the Houston real estate market, and he's got a lot to talk about. Sam, welcome.
Hey, Ralph, it's great to be with you here this morning. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, you bet. CommGate, you got a lot of members out there. What are you hearing from your practitioners in the commercial real estate market about what's going on right now?
Well, I think for the most part, there's a little bit of disappointment that interest rates did not come down. Everybody started this year thinking that, okay, this is finally the year that interest rates are going to start coming down, and they were coming down a little bit there in February, and then as things heated up over in the Persian Gulf, price of oil ticked back up, the gasoline got a little bit more expensive, and it just caused the consumer price index to start sliding the wrong way. And so again, our business really turns on cap rates, which are strongly influenced by interest rates, and as a result, it's just kind of kept a lid on the market to a certain extent. Now, that's not to say that things aren't happening out there. I mean, commercial does have a tendency to follow the rooftops, especially in a town like Houston. We are sort of known for our sprawling style of development, something that really is facilitated by our invention of the municipal utility district back in the 1970s that has allowed for a great deal of development out in unincorporated areas, and as a result, Houston is continues to sprawl. That we're beginning to see a lot more development. Just keeps going further out. Got Valley Ranch, up by Splendora, that's continuing to add just a lot of homes. I mean, Conroe, Greater Conroe, as we might call it now, is looks like it's going to be at 1 million people by the end of the decade. You got the Brookshire Prairie is filling up with 500,000 to 1 million square foot warehouses, along with a lot of rooftops as well. And looks like Houston is getting poised to try to jump the Brazos. So I think Sealy should be on the lookout for us. We're coming, and even down south, you've got Pearland, of course,
the Brazos
for a long time, but
the Brazos River, there you go.
That's right. Certainly a major bit of geography we've got going on there. So now the even Brazoria County is seeing some robust down along Highway 6 there. Danville, Alvin beginning to really take off. So again, it's really out on the fringes of the city that we're seeing so much growth. It kind of reminds me of our old friend Barton Smith. Would always do his annual economic outlook event, and he always had a phrase about Houston real estate that Houston consumers need to just get in their car and drive until they qualify. And that if you can't afford the neighborhood that you're looking at, just go a little further out and keep on going. So, but again, I mean, we've got robust new construction. I mean, really, as we look at residential MLS stats, one thing you notice is that new construction is becoming a bigger share. It's probably almost a third of all homes being sold are now new construction homes. And part of that reflects, just that lock-in effect, that you've got people who were able to refinance or buy a house back before 2022. So they've got like a mortgage rate that below 5%, some of them below 4%. There are even people out there with, mortgages with a 2 handle on them. And so if you're sitting in a house with a 3% mortgage and thinking you want to trade up or move into something else, and you're shopping for a mortgage now at, over 6.5% interest, it really takes a lot of the fun out of it. Great, I'm going to see my payment double to get just a little bit more house. It just doesn't make sense. So that's kind of why the existing home market has been kind of locked down, but the new construction market is kind of where people go to find affordability. And so, if somebody's a first-time home buyer, it used to be they'd go find a nice house out in Quail Valley or, up in Cypress or, be in an older suburb. But now if they're looking for something affordable, the chances are it's going to be new construction on a 40 or 45-foot wide lot and, just be a kind of a skinny little 2-story starter home, so, all that suburban markets need to be serviced with additional retail and, medical office buildings. Certainly the Texas Medical Center has been establishing, satellite locations out in those areas, which in turn, brings employment out there, which in turn brings, more consumer services and fast casual restaurants and restaurants and bars for later in the evening. So it's a kind of a beautiful thing that's been going on here since it had a little bit of a hiccup there in the mid 80s, but again it picked back up in the 90s and we've been going strong ever since. So, but that's kind of what I'm hearing.
We got
the commercial.
I think land is people selling land are doing pretty good. I guess if they can find it in the right place.
Price of rural land has really been, going up. I've been looking at some of the studies out at Texas A&M where they track that rural land market, and just even from old, I have some family that's still country folk, and they're very astounded at some of the appraisals that are coming back on some of their old pasture land that it's really gone up in value here over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. So. But yeah, the particularly large tracts that are suitable for greenfield subdivision work. Again, the Grand Parkway has been a tour de force if you're into development. If you're an Atwater prairie chicken, it might not be that cool a thing, but as far as the fact that you can have people living in Katy now making a daily commute up to the Woodlands. That as Exxon has consolidated their headquarters to their relatively recently built campus just south of Spring Creek, right there next to the Grand Parkway. But a lot of the employees that have been getting transferred here to Houston have been feeling like, hey, they couldn't quite find a place that they liked up there, so they're living further out in Northwest Houston. And of course that Northwest corridor is really where most of our big industrial development is occurring. That Northwest sector between 290 going out, a lot of industrial development out there, but also out along the I-10 corridor out there around Katy and Brookshire, of course. But now that we've got Daikin, with their 4 million square feet and just again, sort of the parlance of the industrial brokers, they refer to those really big, cross dock, warehouse distribution centers as bombers, and they've been landing a lot of bombers, out there in the Katy Prairie, out between Brookshire and Cypress. So it's that's really you just look at, if you consider what really constitutes the modern requirements for a warehouse distribution center. So many of the projects that were, built, before the year 2000 are really considered functionally obsolete. They just don't have the clear height. They don't have, the facilities really to run, these modern warehouse distribution centers. So, when you really look at sort of what the stock of, higher quality, I guess you want to maybe call it Class A industrial, we've almost doubled it, here in the last 6 or 7 years, that, there already was a trend, in place towards e-commerce, which was requiring more warehouse distribution space. And then when the pandemic kicked in 2020, and, sort of a harbinger of a middle-class lifestyle is now having a bunch of cardboard boxes stacked on the doorstep in the afternoon, a lot more home delivery going on. In turn, that's really resulted in, a lot more, warehouses. Plus, with some of the supply chain disruptions that were in that era, again, a lot of companies made a strategic focus to, hey, we need to, this just-in-time inventory was kind of a cool thing, 10, 15 years ago. But actually having inventory on hand is something that American business has become reacquainted with, and hence, the tremendous new demand for, more warehouse space. So
It's been the warehouse. I don't know. We're probably the epicenter of warehouse construction. It's unbelievable. And, you drive some of these areas like the South Beltway 8, the toll road kind of going along between the, Hobby Airport and through Pearland and on over to 59. There's so much new warehouses being built and that have been built in the last 5 years. It's amazing. It's
yeah,
really,
looking at sort of the consensus numbers, I mean, right now there's about 26 million square feet of new warehouse space under construction. The overall vacancy rate is only 7%. So, relatively speaking, it's a very healthy market, and it's one that is proving to be quite bankable. I mean, ultimately, you don't get construction like that unless, the big lenders, the insurance companies and hedge funds and, the commercial mortgage-backed securities market, unless they've got an appetite for that debt. And right now, they see it as being excellent collateral, excellent security, a great place to put money. So, as long as the money is flowing, albeit at a slightly higher interest rate, the stuff is getting built. So
yeah, it's good. And they're good jobs. They're making jobs for people, and this is a great thing. That's good for our city and good for the economy.
well, and of course, I mean, there is sort of the current kerfuffle over data centers, and I mean, really, a data center's really nothing but a big warehouse that you fill it full of computers and make sure it's got enough electricity to keep everything humming and cool. And again, I really, up until quite recently, I think everyone was fairly kindly disposed to them. That they seem like a kind of a good neighbor. There's not a lot of traffic or ruckus going on, but of course they're getting a bad name. I think there's maybe a little bit of overstatement about their water demands. Now, the power is definitely a thing. I mean, and certainly having backup power and generators is can be noisy and disruptive. I know that whenever our power glitches, I'm usually find out about it because I woke up by my neighbor's Generac kicking on. So I could imagine if you're next to a data center and suddenly all of their backup generators fire up.
It probably makes some noise, yeah. And yeah, I can see the concern. I think people are worried about the water supply that they need for those things, and electricity, of course, and the fact that some of them building like mini nuclear power things and to keep
there's
it
one
going.
out by Abilene where they go to the colleges there have started a little nuclear science group and are doing one of those new modular reactors and are going to be powering a big data center. And
Abilene Christian University.
Yeah, good old ACC. So, but yeah, so, they're also looking out in the Permian Basin area. They've got a gas bubble out there. They got more natural gas than they can shove in pipelines and move out of there. So I mean, they have just been burning and flaring a lot of it. There's a lot of thought like, hey, why don't we put in a couple of gas-fired power plants and get some of that briny old radioactive frack water and see if we can't clean it up a little bit and use that to cool these things. So, I mean, that'd be a huge breakthrough if they figure out how to cool a data center with frack water and power it with
natural gas. You're going to good. That'd be a great combination. How efficient can you get?
Well, I mean, goodness, you look at Houston. I mean, again, I think there's certain areas as you get south of town that would be well suited to data centers. I mean, they might not be great neighbors, but I've never really heard anybody sending Christmas baskets to the Dow Oyster Creek facility. I mean, talk about a place that knows how to use power and and go through water. I mean, they've got their own reservoir right there off the Brazos River, and to keep things humming there. And you've got the South Texas Nuclear Project has got several big 384 kV lines that go across the prairie and plug right into that facility. So in the grand scheme of things, when you look at the industrial landscape along the Texas coast and some of these places, that seems like a few bomber data centers would fit right in, and they've already got the nukes going, and
and then we got the latest thing. The latest thing is, well, the what is it? These pharma plants, pharmaceutical big factories.
Oh yeah, that's certainly Generation Park. We picked up that big Lilly project. Oh, I don't know if we'll be able to go up there and get a discount on our day old Monjaro store, but
well, and Bristol Myers just announced this week, just a few days ago, about they're going to build 600,000 square feet pharma plant of some kind, pharmaceutical something, but it's right there in Generation Park also.
Well, it is kind of sad when you look at the Texas Medical Center, all of the innovation that has been incubated there, all of the great discoveries and things that they've developed. And typically the story is that you got a little startup that's doing something there in the Texas Medical Center, and they start getting some traction, get some VC funding, and as they start really beginning to grow, somebody comes in, makes a big investment and boxes the whole deal up and ships it out to San Francisco or San Diego or Boston, and all of the brain drain happens and the folks are moved out. It'd be great to try to figure out how to hang on to more of that innovation, as we try to take it to market and translate it out of the lab and into the clinics to actually keep that innovation here. That's kind of one of the things I think is a big missed opportunity. When Bill McRaven was head of the University of Texas, there was a much publicized attempt where he wanted to bring University of Texas research campus, to Houston, and actually, optioned and was buying a large tract of land down just south of 610, on the other side of alternate 90 there, kind of where
Holmes Road type of place.
Right. You kind of have that lonely little roundabout, off Buffalo's Speedway out in the middle of nowhere there in an old oil patch, and that's where UT was going to set up their campus. But mercifully, we had a University of Houston alumni were activated to repel this invasion. That heaven forbid that UT come invest hundreds of millions of dollars on a biotech campus. And we were able to, force UT to retreat. Again, I think that's, kind of one of the. I really think Houston kind of shot itself in the foot on that deal.
Hey, it's everybody's a Houston Cougar fan. We like to, Hakeem and all those guys, and Drexler, and they're great. But you got to draw the line here.
Well, I'll buy tickets anytime U of H wants to play Rice in a football game. I'll show up and see who wins the Bayou bucket. But at the same time, that was I couldn't believe it. You're kind of like, most places would, cut off their right arm to get an economic development gain like this, and we fought against it. Our leadership, some of our leadership did, and they're gone. So that. Well, it was a good idea, though, and really that is a well-situated piece of ground for trying to sort of get into the, you've got so much, agglomeration of biotechnical talent and research going on in the Texas Medical Center. And a lot of that is really constrained by the old estate of George Herman deed restrictions that restrict the Texas Medical Center proper, the main campus, to be entirely not for profit. And so these for-profit ventures, have to find some nearby adjacent space, and again, it's like with the TMCX campus and the Helix and these other, ancillary biomedical campuses, have provided.
TMC3.
There's been a little bit of a hiccup with, NIH and CDC funding was a big part of that ecosystem. And, to the extent that, some of the, Doge activity that, cut a lot of those research grants is, that is, potentially a little bit of a negative headwind, that our biotechnical community is having to deal with. But nonetheless, it seems like
they kind of have also had some back headwinds because, when the tariffs came out with the big, Liberation Day or whatever they call it, those buildings that they're constructing there in the medical center, and there's a bunch of them. A lot of the stuff they put in there is not made it's made in Europe or Asia somewhere, and that the cost of their putting up a building. I heard some guy who's familiar with that kind of construction. He said, "Man, the tariffs on there are eating us alive." And kind of thinking that what we've been talking about, continued pretty good. We're still number one or number two in the nation in terms of home starts. We've got the new construction out there in the suburbs and exurbs, and of course there's retail and players like Huntington going in there and building right with retail and stuff to serve these new communities. There's a lot of that, all sides of the city, really, and we got the good pharmaceutical things coming. Yeah, well, we've had a lot to talk about things going on, all the jobs being created, all the things being sold and built. So just wanted to give everybody a reminder about the September 23rd Economic Outlook event that CommGate is hosting. Sam, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's going to be, as you mentioned, September 23rd from 3 to 6 p.m. out at the Houston Country Club in the Potomac Ballroom. We're going to hear from Dr. Ted C. Jones, who was formerly the chief economist for Stewart Title. He's currently serving as the chief economist for the Houston Realtors as well. So he's semi-retired here. Again, he's certainly an OG economist when it comes to real estate. He was the chief economist at the Real Estate Center at Texas A&M and really founded the whole science around MLS statistics. He came and camped out here at HAR back in the 1980s and worked with, back when the MLS was running on a mainframe, with being able to extract data and analyze it, and really sort of created the whole category. But in particular, Ted has got a unique perspective. He now really monitors, conditions, across Texas. And so, one thing that I noted was that recently a report came out about, the major markets, that were leading with new home construction, and 4 of the top 5, were in Texas. There was Dallas, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. So Ted's going to be giving us a little bit of an overview of how those different markets stack up, but again, with an emphasis on the commercial aspect of the economy. So again, the cost, it is a member benefit for people that are CommGate members. Regular HAR members get a 50% discount off the $50 ticket, and again, for the members of the commercial affiliated institutes such as CCIM and SIOR, they also get a complimentary admission. So last year's event drew over 200 attendees, and it was again a a really kind of like a commercial family reunion. It was great to have, folks that, hadn't seen each other in since the last one. So again, it's always a great opportunity to, get folks back together after a long, hot Houston summer. Right now, again, a lot of our, commercial big deal makers are, cooling their jets someplace a little bit cooler, maybe up in Aspen or Wyoming, or, maybe a good time to go, visit family in Europe or something. But hopefully after Labor Day, they'll all come back to Houston.
Right. Well, but September 23rd is that the first day of fall? Isn't that the first
Well,
day
it's right after the autumnal equinox, if that's what you mean. So
that's the official first day of fall, September 23rd.
Well, it's going to be equinox or not. It's probably still going to be warm. I don't think summer in Houston ends until sometime in October. So, but no, it's going to be a great event. Again, we'll hear from Ted for about an hour, and then have kind of a little bit of a networking happy hour there. And so again, I would encourage all commercial practitioners to, again, I think we've got a link for us up on, Realty News Report or at CommGate.com, or just, check the, spam folder on your email. The chances are we've been sending out some promotional material about that. So we'd love to get folks registered and make sure we got a chair and a name tag for you. So let's get signed up and come on out on September 23rd. It's going to be an excellent.
Ted's a great speaker too. He really is. He's very entertaining and knowledgeable. So,
well, he susses out, kind of gets into the weeds on, kind of what's driving a lot of, the different economies as you look around the state. And to a certain extent, I mean, Houston is, competing with other Texas markets, but as this whole Texas Triangle phenomenon becomes more pronounced, just that so much of the economic activity initially it was just for Texas, was happening within the Texas Triangle, but now you really see the Texas Triangle, flexing its muscle on even a national and international level, that we've got, a bigger economy and more economic growth than, most countries. So, it's, becoming really the dominant, it's going to be really, I think, pronounced when we do the next census and have the next reallocation of, congressional seats, that, Texas is going to be, a big winner. And there are a lot of other, big, economic, states that are going to be, sending their congressional seats to Texas to be filled. So, but again, a lot of that is driven by the population gains, and which in turn are driven by the jobs. I mean, there's sort of that virtuous cycle that, as Ted Jones always says, that, in the economy, jobs are everything. And
we got
so
that.
that's what represents the commercial aspect of the economy is, providing the framework, the infrastructure to create those jobs, and in turn, that creates the rooftops and the new houses, the new construction, that in turn, create more jobs. So, we've got a good thing going, and Ted will be telling us just how good a thing we got going on September 23rd.
I believe you said if you're CommGate member, it's free, right?
Right. It's a member benefit, and also for members of our CCIM and SIOR chapters. We've got got a program where, again, because they are part of, the realtor family, that, CCIM and SIOR are, realtor affiliates. And so we, have all of their membership information as well. So, they're, welcome to attend with a complimentary registration as well. But please register anyway. We need to know you're coming. So we've got a badge and a chair for you. And again, and then in other HAR members that aren't CommGate members or members of CCIM or SIOR, there's a 50% discount. So we want to get as many folks in the room as possible.
Before we go, just tell us a little bit more about CommGate, and maybe there people are new to town.
Yeah, CommGate was started before I came to work at HAR way back in the 90s. And again, just with the notion that we really needed a system that was really optimized and dedicated to the commercial practitioner. we started and launched sort of the separate CommGate system back in 2001, and it's gone through some different vendors and changes over the years. We currently are working with Moody's Analytics, and so it is a national platform. And it's not just broker supplied data. We have a research team. We've got a 3-person customer service team. We've got 4 research and data entry professionals that are constantly following up with firms to keep their inventories up to date and verified. We work with landlords, whether they're a member of our service or not, to make sure that all the office and industrial listings for any building over 20,000 square feet, we're surveying and updating that information. I mean, that's probably one area where AI is really beginning to impact us now, that, trying to process, inventories from companies and keep track of stuff. We've really been bringing some AI tools to bear in that area. But again, we've got a great service. Almost 1,000 broker members. Every major firm in town is on board. And one of the things that we've really found is that while CommGate.com and working with Moody's through their distribution at Moody'sCRE.com, providing a national platform for our members and their listings. But HAR.com, HAR.com out traffics all the other major real estate portals, by a mile, bigger than Zillow or any of the other sites that are out there. And as the web has matured and search engine optimization and AI exposure has become such a bigger part of how information is shared and how you attract viewers and business decision makers and people that are doing research on the web. Our integration with HAR.com has become more and more important. And last year, we actually started, you can go to HAR.com/CommGate, or just go to HAR.com and hit the commercial button and actually see all of the CommGate listings, integrated there on the HAR.com site. And so that's greatly increased, the visibility, both, to humans that are searching, but also to the AI bots and the search engines that are ranking that stuff. Again, if you've got a commercial listing, punch in the address and see, how high up, where the main hits are. And again, HAR.com has got, the search engine exposure that is really giving our members, a great deal of value and marketing oomph, to make those listings.
That's a great tie-in. A long time ago, HAR was a real national leader. They were some of the MLSs around the nation, or most of them, were kind of hesitant to go for it. But under the leadership of Bob Hill and later, it's kind of.
They launched that website back in 1996, before I was working with the organization. And I guess it was about 1999, they had a revelation, like, why do we have a sign out in front of the building that says Houston Association of Realtors? Nobody cares about that. And they put an HAR.com advertisement up on our old pylon sign out there on the Southwest Freeway at Edlow. And we went from 15,000 user sessions a month to 15,000 user sessions a day, in 1 month's time. We've been big fans of outdoor advertising ever since. But
how many clicks does HAR.com get these days?
Oh, I mean, again, the numbers are staggering. It's just like 4 million user sessions a day. It's it's tremendous. The number of detailed page views. It's again, we get all these reports, and again, the numbers are just kind of mind-boggling. We did at one point last year, early last year, we saw this tremendous run up in our traffic to the website. And we brought in some experts who started analyzing it. And that was like the beginning of the AI boom. And we suddenly realized, like, we've got all these AI bots, coming and helping themselves to the information.
Yeah.
And so we put in, some, bot detection, bot filtering, to cut down on that exposure. And we saw like 2/3 of our traffic, suddenly was getting blocked, but at the same time, you don't want to fool yourself about, what your audience is, that it kind of deflated our numbers. But on the other hand, really, protecting the integrity of our information compilation and trying to make sure that it's being used legitimately, for the benefit of our members and their customers and clients is more important. And we certainly are looking for ways to engage with AI and make sure that our members have access to the most advanced AI tools available. And so we are making big investments in AI. And a lot of that really was focusing on, expanded search, a lot of work with imagery, better marketing materials, things of that sort.
The thing that crosses my mind is I've seen it happen. You're looking at a listing on har.com, this house is for sale. And then with AI, they kind of like dress up the rooms and stuff with artificial intelligence. And is that real? Is that the way it really looks, or is that somebody that's kind of
the whole virtual staging thing is a little out of control. I mean, we do have requirements and rules that if AI has been used to enhance an image, that they got to say so. And they also have to provide a copy of the unaltered image. And initially, this was pretty innocuous stuff. You'd look at a curb shot, and it's like, oh, look at that beautiful green lawn, and look at the beautiful sunset, but behind the house. And then you realize, like, well, hell yeah, that house, that's, you're looking north. There shouldn't be a sunset there, but yeah, I mean, that was sort of the way it first came in, is that people were sort of photoshopping a beautiful sunset and a green lawn in there, but it's gone a lot further than that now. And take an empty room that's kind of beat up, and they can push a button and suddenly it's been repainted and has new window treatments and mid-century modern furniture and a beautiful Persian rug. And, they really can, and that sort of thing used to take, like an hour of somebody who was really an expert at Photoshop to do it. But now with AI tools, it can be done in seconds. And so that is an area where you certainly want sellers to be able to put their best foot forward, but at the same time, you want buyers to be able to have a better idea of exactly what is it that they're thinking about buying. You don't want people to pull up in front of a house and say, no, this isn't the house I looked at on the web. So you certainly want the home that's actually being sold to be recognizable in the marketing materials that are used to promote it. But and again, with commercial real estate, again, it seems like a lot of the AI has really been focused more in terms of putting together attractive flyers and designing marketing tools. I mean, there's certainly some people using AI to do market analysis, but of course you've got to have access to good underlying data, and that's one of the things that we're working with Moody's on now, is to have better AI analytical tools built into the information platform that we use. And that'll be across the coast, because again, when a CommGate member logs into CommGate, they're able to see comprehensive researched information for Houston, but they also can see comprehensive researched information for Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, Lubbock, Los Angeles, Seattle, points up in the Midwest.
There you go.
We're huge in Minneapolis.
See the new nukes in Abilene, Texas.
Yeah, well, it's yeah, that's right. Keep track of the nukes out in Abilene.
Musk is doing that big deal in Grimes County, kind of like east.
Yeah, the big Terrafab thing, and then have a big chip.
I'm going to build 100 million square
manufacturing facility. Wow, that is pretty amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Well,
Tralab. That's it. TRALAB. That's
what's going to be interesting to see. You wonder,
like
is he going to have the workforce to really staff that thing, or is he going to have some of his Optimus robots, walking the halls there? It's it'd be interesting to see what that facility really turns into.
They put stuff up fast. They put the Gigafactory up to East Austin, 4 million feet. Bam! About 2 years later, Tesla's coming off the line.
That I-35 corridor is a thirsty corridor. That they've got some water issues. They had water issues before data centers, and right now, I mean, it seems like the big plan of the state to solve the water problems is to come down here to the coast and take our water. So, right now, Houston's been blessed by having a fairly adequate water supply, but there's certainly some thirsty Texas cities along that I-35 corridor that jealously, regard our water resources, and are trying to figure out how to build a big pipeline to haul it back, to the west. So.
Yeah, well, they've talked about this for so long. Henry Cisneros, mayor of San Antonio in the 80s, was talking about the Austin San Antonio corridor, and it's taken a lot longer than he thought, but it happened. And of course, he was a big proponent and wrote a book about the Texas Triangle. How big this impact this is going to be of all the economic impact and growth and people within the Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Houston. That triangle is, and now like you said, it's economic powerhouse major. So it's going to be something. Anyway, Sam, Scott, appreciate everything. We'll mark our calendars for September 23rd. I think we need to check it out, but I think that's the first day of fall, so maybe it'll be cool that day. But for your economic outlook there with Ted Jones and
you're going to be there too, aren't you, Ralph? Aren't you going to come out?
I'll be there.
Well, this will be a great chance for all of your fans to come meet you in person here. I'll
be there, man. I look forward to
Ralph
seeing
Bivins,
people, old friends too. So.
Hey, well, tell you, it's been great. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, Sam.